What's going on, folks? Welcome to Kids Today with Dr. Kamal Jones. I am Dr. Kamal Jones. On today's episode, we are talking about the new Trump tariffs and how these will impact children and families throughout the country. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and of course, leave a comment. I want to know your thoughts about today's topic. As you probably have seen, this week Donald Trump announced an unprecedented 10% tariff on goods from nearly every country that we trade with in the world, plus additional tariffs on dozens of these countries, including 20% for the European Union and a total of 54% on Chinese goods, and the list goes on and on. So, before we talk about what this means for kids, let's first very quickly talk about what a tariff is. A tariff is simply a tax on goods imported from other countries. So let's say, for example, you were buying your child a shirt from Macy's. That shirt was made in India and is valued at $20. A 10% tariff now means that the government is collecting a tax of 10% of that $20. So a $2 tax on that shirt, which means that effectively the cost of the shirt has increased by $2. While businesses may absorb a portion of that cost, most will pass that increase to you, which means that the shirt will cost you about $2 more than it would have otherwise. Now, a shirt is a really direct example, but in reality, trade is often much more integrated and nuanced. There are many cars, for example, that are American made but have some foreign parts. Or maybe one of your favorite restaurants uses bananas which were grown in Costa Rica, or rice that comes from Vietnam. The economy of our world is deeply intertwined. When used in targeted ways, tariffs can lead to increases in purchase of American-made products because those don't face this additional tax. But in the case of such broad tariffs, as we are seeing with this set of Trump tariffs, there are several issues. We, first off, don't have American equivalents for all of these products. Second, the US equivalents that we do have tend to be more expensive because of increased labor costs. And third, even for things that we can make more of, it often takes years to build that capacity, which means that in the meantime, we just have to deal with higher prices. So, what does all of this mean for kids? There are two general pools of impact that we should consider: the really direct impacts and the indirect impacts. In terms of direct impacts, these tariffs are set to hit the pockets of all American families, costing the average US household about $3,800 a year. In particular, tariffs are often referred to as a regressive tax, which means that they impact the poorest families the hardest, because these families spend a relatively larger amount of their income on purchasing everyday items. If you are wealthy, you have more disposable income to put money towards investments and savings, whereas if you have less money, things like groceries and clothing and household necessities take up a larger portion of your budget. On top of this, many of the items which are more affordable come from other countries like China or Cambodia, which have been hit hardest with these tariffs, which means that the cheapest items are more likely to see a larger relative price increase. All of this adds up to mean that families that have the least amount of money, our poorest families, could see as much as a 4% decrease in their after-tax income due to these tariffs. For high-income families, that number is closer to 1%. That can be the difference between being able to afford to put shoes on your child's feet or not. This could be choosing between paying the light bill or buying groceries. And that is only for necessities. Let's not forget the other joys of childhood, right? A bicycle to ride with friends has now become more expensive because of these Trump tariffs. The Nintendo Switch that your teenager wanted as a reward for making the honor roll, well, that's now been put on pause, most likely as they take the time to adjust the prices due to these tariffs. And then there are the indirect costs, which can be just as impactful as direct costs on goods. When we think about indirect costs, these are really all of the sort of ripple effects of increased tariffs. One of the biggest examples is childcare. As any parent can quickly attest to, childcare is already extremely expensive in this country, costing as much as another rent for many families. These tariffs have the potential to impact both ends of childcare. On the parent side, less flexibility in the budget means less ability to afford to get childcare in the first place. And access to childcare is crucial to so many families if they're going to work and be able to make ends meet. On the childcare provider side, these tariffs mean that things like food for the children or early education supplies are likely to be more expensive, which means that the childcare centers may be forced to increase their pricing, making the situation only more financially difficult for families. These sort of ripple effects have the ability to impact a host of industries, from the cost of getting your child's haircut to how school sports are able to function. So, what can we do? In addition to making, of course, any needed personal financial adjustments, one of the biggest things that we can do is to make a lot of noise in support of a new bipartisan bill to reel in Trump's power with tariffs. This bill would give Congress the ability to review and potentially cancel Trump tariffs, and it already has support from both Democrats and Republicans in both the House and the Senate. Now, it will be an uphill battle given the strong Republican control of Congress, but it is still vital that we advocate. The other thing that is so crucial in this time is engaging in peaceful protests and making sure that our voices are heard, letting the government know and our friends around the world know that we will not stand for this. All right, my friends, that is our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Kids Today. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel already, and definitely leave a comment. This community is more important now than ever before, and so let's continue to build it together. And until next time, this is Kids Today.